Okay, here's my homemade chili verde, Mexican rice, and refried beans. And we are going to dig into this and get a little bit of each thing.
Look at me touching yours.
And that is really, really good. Keep watching, find out how it's made. It's super delicious. Bye! Guys, I just want to say thanks for stopping by to watch my video. Tonight I'm going to be making a recipe my stepdad taught me how to make, and it's chili verde, rice, and beans. One part I'm super sad about, though, is that our market in our little town did not have any tomatillos. They didn't even know what tomatillos were. But they happen to have tomatillo salsa, so I'm going to have to substitute with that. But I'll tell you the steps to take on how to make the right tomatillo sauce, which isn't very hard, and it's not much different than making tomatillo salsa. So I hope you guys enjoy my video, and I wanted to thank you all so much for the support you've been giving me, and it totally makes my day to see your guys' comments and everything. So thank you so much, and yeah, I hope you like this video. Bye! Guys, so I'm going to be showing you how to make your own homemade chili verde, homemade Mexican rice, and semi-homemade refried beans. So I couldn't make my own beans because it's way too hot, and also I didn't have the time. So I just got a can of regular pinto beans, and I'll show you what to do with those. You're going to want rice, pork. I just use, this is a pork top loin roast boneless, sour cream, heavy whipping cream. You can use whole milk if you don't have heavy whipping cream. And as I said in the beginning, I have to use tomatillo salsa because they didn't have any tomatillos at the store. But this actually tastes really good, and it tastes just like the sauce that I make. So it kind of works out. You're going to need salt, ground cumin, ground pepper, granulated garlic powder, a small onion, flour tortillas or corn tortillas, whatever you like, 2 cans of tomato sauce, chicken bouillon, and what was the last thing? Oh, and a quarter cup of flour, quarter cup to a half a cup of flour. And I believe that is all the things you'll need. If you want to make the sauce, instead of having the salsa, if you want to make the sauce, you want 3 to 4 tomatillos, 1 to 2 jalapenos, depending on how spicy you like it, 1 onion, and you're going to boil those in a pot of water until they're cooked, and then you're just going to blend them and make salsa pretty much. So that's how I make the sauce when I'm not using salsa. I hope that made sense. Okay, so I'm going to be back and get started. So you're going to want to make the chili verde part first because it's good to let it simmer for about an hour to an hour and a half so the pork gets nice and tender. So I'm going to start making the chili verde first. And I do that by just getting an onion, slicing it and cubing it up, and then going to cut the pork. So you don't have to do the onions fancy, just chop them up and set them to the side while you get your pork ready to cut up. So I'm going to start cutting my pork, and you can have big chunks or little chunks. I like to do little chunks because that way they cook down faster and get tender faster. So I'm just going to start chopping this up, and I'll be back. So after you cut your pork, you want to wash your cutting board really good. And you're going to want your pieces like around this small. I think my biggest pieces are like this big. That's how my stepdad taught me how to do it. My mom, she does them like this big. My stepdad gets mad. So yeah, make sure your pieces are nice and little. It takes forever, but it's well worth it. And I will be back to show you what we do next. Okay, so I had to cut up 2 of those things of meat, so because my family's really big. So if you have a big family, do 2 of those too. If you only cut 1, then I will tell you to do half the ingredients. Anyways, you put about 2 tablespoons of oil into a hot pan. And you throw your pumpkin in. So I'm just going to stir it around a little bit. And then I just stir it to get the oil evenly coated on the pork. And after I do that, I just leave it. Well, actually, I have to add the seasoning and then I leave it. Okay, so I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of ground cumin, which if you did only 1 pack of meat, you're going to do 3 tablespoons. 6 tablespoons of garlic, or 3 tablespoons if you only did 1 pack. And 2 tablespoons of salt, or 1 tablespoon if you only did 1 pack. And then I just ground pepper a little bit for taste. I don't do a specific amount, but it's going to be pretty spicy, so you don't want to add too much pepper. And then you just stir everything around. Add your onion. Stir it around. So now this is when I let it sit and cook and do its thing. If you start seeing juices bubbling really bad, you can stir it. When it gets to that point, I will show you. So you can see it starting to bubble, like I was talking about. So you just want to stir it a little bit. And then you're just going to leave it again. And you want to cook it down till it pretty much has no more liquid in it. And I'll show you what that looks like in a little bit. So I just wanted to show you that it will get a lot of juice in it, as you can see. So you want to cook it down until there's like no more juices except for like the fatty juices and oils. So it does take a while to cook this dish. Just a warning. But yeah, it's well worth the wait, for sure. So yeah, just keep cooking down until all those juices have evaporated. I just wanted to add that it's like literally probably 100 degrees in my kitchen right now. And I'm cooking this chili verde and I feel like I'm gonna die. So if my voice is shaky while I'm cooking, it's probably because I'm like having a heat stroke or something. But yeah, it's like seriously super hot in here. So excuse my voice and yeah, I'm just really hot. Okay, so the meat has been cooking for about 30, maybe 40 minutes. And you can see that there's like no sauce left, like hardly any. It's mainly just oils. So this part, you want to be careful with. You don't want to, Mom, I love you, but you don't want to be like my mom and accidentally burn your chili verde. So you want to be really careful. You want to have your liquid ready, which in my case is the tomatillo salsa. If you made your own, have that ready because we will see why. So since I did 2 things of meat, I'm adding a half a cup of flour. If you only did 1, only add a 1/4 cup of flour. So you just sprinkle your flour, and then you quickly want to start stirring it. You want to turn your heat down before you do this part too. So I turned mine way down to low. And then once the flour has absorbed the rest of those juices and gotten all like weird and it's like stuffing, that's when you want to add your sauce. I added 2 jars because I did the 2 things of meat. You just want to stir that in really good. And then you're going to want to add probably about a cup of water. I'm just putting it in this jar. Okay, so I'm going to add another cup of water. Again, if you only did one thing of meat, then you'll be adding a cup of water, but before you would have added a half a cup. But you want it kind of runny because you're going to cook it for about 45 minutes to an hour. Sorry, my throat's all. It's probably because it's so hot in this dang kitchen. Okay, so now that you have everything all mixed together, you can turn the heat up to medium. And you want to make sure that you keep an eye on it and stir it frequently so you don't burn it like my lovely mother. Sorry, Mom! I wanted to add that if you taste your chili verde so far, which you should to make sure the spices are right, if it's a little too sour or a little too spicy, you can add a little bit of sugar. And you only want to add like, I don't know, that was probably a tablespoon or so. And then stir it and taste it again. If it still tastes too sour, add a little bit more sugar until it tastes right. You'll know what your taste bud's like. And then also, if it's still too spicy, you can add a little bit more flour along with a little bit more water. See, I'm going to add a little bit more sugar because that salsa is kind of tart. But yeah, just make sure you don't add too much sugar at a time because you can't take the sugar out. Okay, so as you can see, it's bubbling and it's been cooking for a while now, probably about almost an hour. I did cheat, however, because it was just that salsa was way too spicy for me. So I had to add a can of tomato sauce to make it not so spicy because it was just way too spicy. But if you like it spicy, that's awesome. You won't have to add a can of tomato sauce. But that is an option you can do if you make your sauce or buy sauce that's too spicy, is you can add tomato sauce, or you can make your own tomato sauce and add it, and that will reduce the heat. But that's what I had to do. I'm sorry, Robert, but I tried to stick into the recipe as much as I could, but it was just too spicy. Okay, so now that that's done, I'm going to put it to the back, and I'm going to start on my rice. Okay, so we're going to start on our rice. Sorry, my camera's all messed up. But I added about 3 tablespoons of oil, and you want it to heat up. And you want to make sure that you have a pan that will hold at least 4 cups of water. So I cut some onion just into quarters. I'm going to throw the onion in there. Oh, that chili verde was so spicy, my throat is still, like, burning. Then you're going to take 2 cups of rice and throw that in there. And stir it around. Try to break up the onions. Well, not, like, break them up, but just separate them from themselves. You want to fry the rice until it starts to get really white. I know rice is already white, but it will get really, really white. I think the word's opaque. I don't know if that means clear or not. Anyways, you'll tell. It starts getting cooked white. So you're going to want to have ready 2 bouillon cubes, or enough chicken bouillon for 4 cups of water, 1 teaspoon of ground pepper, and 1 tablespoon of cumin. You're also going to want to have your cans of tomato sauce open, 2 cans. And since each one of those equals a cup of water, you're going to do 2 cans of tomato sauce and 2 cans of water. So it's 2 cups of rice to 4 cups of liquid, pretty much. So as you can see, my rice is starting to turn white. You can see it on the spoon, kind of. Can you see it? There you go. See the ones that are really clear and then the ones that are more cooked? You want as many cooked as possible. If they start toasting a little bit, that's fine. You just don't want to burn them. I like adding my spices before adding the liquid because I feel like it brings the spices out more. So I just added my cumin, my pepper, and my chicken bouillon. I'm going to mix that all around. Don't worry about the chicken bouillon breaking down. It'll melt down when you add the liquid. Okay, so the rice is cooked. So we're going to add 1 can tomato sauce, 2 cans tomato sauce, then 1 can of water, 2 cans water, and stir it until the chicken bouillon is all mixed in. You're going to want it to start coming into a bubble. Just a light little simmer. And once it does, you're going to put the lid on and reduce the heat to a medium-low, or whatever heat you usually cook rice on. Like with my stove, it's funky because it's a propane stove, so I have to cook it on like low, 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 but it would be like a medium-low for a normal stove. So I just want to make sure all the chicken bouillon is disintegrated in there because it's not good when you go to take a bite of rice and it's like a big salt pocket. So I don't see any bouillon chunks. I'm going to not touch that anymore. Let it come to a bubble. Okay, so I haven't touched it and you can see that it's slowly starting to simmer was the word I was looking for instead of bubble. I don't know. Letting it come to a bubble sounds a lot cuter than simmer. Maybe that's why I say it. So you're going to put your lid on and reduce the heat to very, very low because you do not want your rice to burn. So I got mine perfect, and you're going to want your rice to cook for about 20 minutes or until you can start seeing the rice at the top. That usually means that it's done. And we will be back to check on our rice in a little bit. So we are going to check our rice. I'm going to scoot my camera a little bit. It was getting too hot earlier. So, your rice should be bubbling a little bit. Can you see it? And I'm going to stir it. And this is like done. So what I like to do is when it's still like a little bit, the rice is a little bit, still needs like about 5 more minutes of cooking. I just take it off the heat, put the lid on, and put it to the back of the stove. And it will steam the rest of itself to be cooked perfectly and not mushy rice. Okay, next we are going to do our refried beans. Okay, with your refried beans, you want just a frying pan. I'm using my infamous wok one because it's kind of deep. And I'm using canola oil. I'm going to put a good amount of oil in there. That was probably about 4 tablespoons. And then you want to have your canned beans or your cooked beans pre-strained. If they're in the can, you want to put them in a colander and like actually strain them. Don't rinse them with water or anything, just strain them. Not just open the can and shake the juice out because that doesn't get all the juices out and you want all the juices out. So I have mine strained already. I'm going to let my oil heat up a little bit. That was bad. I had a paper towel right next to the fire. So I'll be back in a second. Alright, so now that the oil is nice and hot, you're going to want to be careful with this part because beans going into oil likes to pop. It's almost like frying bacon. So stand back. Woo! And that is exactly why you do not want liquid in your beans, because otherwise it will like pop really bad, or it could even like catch your pan on fire, and you don't want that to happen. So make sure you strain your beans. So we're going to cook these until they're fried. which takes about 15 minutes. And I will be back when it is at that point. Just cook them for about 15 minutes, and I'll be back. I don't know why my camera keeps doing it. Okay, so while your beans are in the frying process, you want to add just a smidge of some salt. I know I use giant, coarse sea salt. This is my favorite salt in the world. It like actually has flavor. It's not just like salty. Don't ever use iodized salt. That is like the worst for you, and don't use that. I just put a little like sprinkle of garlic powder. Not very much. Maybe like half a tablespoon or teaspoon. And on fine setting on my pepper grinder, just grind a little bit of pepper. It's always harder to grind when it's on fine. So just, yeah, a little bit of pepper. Mix that around. You'll know that the beans are pretty much done frying when there's like no liquid left in the pan. See how it's still kind of, I don't know if you can really see it, but there's still a little bit of liquid left in the pan, so I'm going to fry them for about 5 more minutes. Okay, so your beans are done frying. So this is where I take all but about that much of beans and put them into the blender with a 1/4 cup of heavy whipping cream and blend them. And I leave this much left for a little bit of texture. So I'll be back with the finished product. So here we are back with our blended beans and mixing in with the... Bubby, calm down. Quiet, please. I'm going to add a little more whipping cream because they are really thick. Whoa! That was a lot. Yeah, I'm going to turn the heat down because that was really hot. But that is how I make my refried beans. Usually I do it with homemade pinto beans, but this is the lazy way that still comes out tasting like homemade refried beans. Okay, so next I'm going to warm up my tortillas, and then I will show you how to plate. If you haven't watched my other cooking videos, this is how I warm up my tortillas, just on a hot pan, and I just warm them up on each side, and do that over and over until I've warmed up enough tortillas for my family. Right, so everything is finally done, and I'm going to start plating food. So we got some chili verde. Got some homemade refried beans. They're really thick. Gonna put some cheese on those so it'll melt while it's still hot. And then we've got our rice. Sorry if my arm's in the way. Here's our rice. Came out perfect. And then I like putting a dollop of sour cream in the middle because it goes great with everything. And then you plate it with some tortillas like that. And voila! There is our chili verde, refried beans, and homemade Mexican rice. Thanks for watching!